idea for all this really came from a dream?
Yes.
Good evening and welcome to Nox Mente. Tonight's guest is Jessica Marrocco. Jessica is a psychic, intuitive medium, past life regressionist, Akashic Record Reader, ET experiencer, and Galactic Liaison. Jessica has been communicating with Andronicus and ET from Andromeda for several years, with over 200 shows discussing intriguing information and interesting insights to many unanswered questions for humanity. There are various other ETs whom she has communicated with and are involved as well with transmissions, including Rhodan, also known as Odin, and more. Jessica, welcome to the show.
Hello, Jerry. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Oh, great to be here.
Welcome aboard.
Thank you, Nish.
I think I'm roboting already. It's a connection.
No, I haven't heard your robot yet.
Okay. Because both of you have frozen up on me.
We're just cold people.
No, I think it's energetics again. Anyway, it's a great pleasure to have you here, Jessica. And especially last time we had to reschedule, I had gotten this severe a cold that I never get. And so I apologize for that.
Well, I'm glad to see you're feeling better.
Yes, much better. That was a hell ride. It was. Talk about a hell ride. So let's get in and start talking about the early stuff that comes up for you and what sticks out now from your earliest period of life, this life, that you can recall.
And you mean like paranormal stuff that happened? Or
Anything that inspired you. So I'm talking like early and pop culture-y. So kind of your foundation blocks. So did you have a relationship with nature? Did you like comic books or cartoons? Did any movies stick out? Stuff like that.
of course, I always liked the older movies, and I remember watching Dark Shadows as a kid. I don't know if you remember Dark Shadows.
I loved Dark Shadows. Oh, it was so legendary and ahead of its time.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of that stuff has come back again. They've done, movies of that later on. But I remember, like, I had such a weird. I thought it was my imagination, but I had some very weird experiences as a child, and so a lot of which I learned to not talk about because people thought it was strange. I could see dimensionally through. I remember playing in the front yard, and in the air, I could see like a dimension through the air, and almost like I could touch it. I'd see these like gelatinous-looking things floating around. I remember reaching for them, and some of the other kids saying, "What are you doing?" And I say, "You don't see that?" And so, early on, I learned to not say much because. But meanwhile, all of this type of thing was going on. And of course, I have a recollection of a spacecraft over my house at the age of 5, where I was pulled outside in the middle of the night and looking up, seeing a spacecraft. So the ET stuff has been around, and that then came back to me again around the age of 12 or so when I saw my first Boston album. And I don't know if you guys remember the album of Boston. But I had this big spacecraft, and I remember someone handing me that, and I just stood there for about 5 minutes staring at it, like, why does this look familiar to me?
I had the exact same. I had the exact same experience with the ELO Out of the Blue album cover, and I went to the concert too, which was a spaceship. It was weird. It was like, I know what you mean.
Going on, yeah. I mean, they were prepping us for something, and also, they were experiencing it, and so it was coming back. Like, we're trying to figure out what in the world was going on. It wasn't until I got very much in my 50s that I finally got the answer. Finally, that's a long time. I mean, I've asked a lot of people. I tried to sort through this stuff, but it comes back to the ET experience where no one wants to talk about it. They don't know how to address it. And I think that's the problem. You want to put it in the closet, or you want to just be safe. You don't want anyone to think that you're crazy or there's anything wrong with you. And I appreciate those that come out in the forefront and they talk about it and, really are bold about what their experience was and hold their ground. But I know that government doesn't want this out, so it makes it even more challenging.
So I want to stop here for a minute and just look at this 5-year-old craft experience. After you had it, did you share it with your parents?
Um, I might have. I think what happened is they wiped my memory of that one. But I do remember sharing with my parents seeing some kind of robots. I used to have nightmares every night for, I don't know, maybe it was a half a year or so, around the age of 6.
What did the robots look like?
They were just looked like short robots. I heard that the robots are coming, they're invading. So it was really a weird thing.
They weren't the little blue doctors, right?
It was the little one. They were little ones. The little with the square.
Were they blue or just like real
Silver.
robot-y metallic? Okay.
Metallic.
Yeah, I was picturing metallic.
It was really strange because I guess maybe from my perspective as a young child, this was a form of AI that was coming in
Yes.
and invading. I was afraid of them. I knew that there was something very callous and cold about them, and that you couldn't reason with them. And I've had that experience before, where if they have to destroy something, that there's no reasoning with them. They're just
Right.
do that, and that's probably one of the worst things is the AI component, in my opinion.
Yes. Well, it's all looking at everything kind of black and white logically. And this is what I've been talking about for years. We should consider that if we're going to move forward. Although we'll get to that later. I still want to get these building blocks, our foundation set. So when you were talking about you could see through the air dimensionally, could you give us some more visuals on that? I had this experience too, and I find this very interesting to hear. So what are the mechanics of that? How did it appear to you? And then what was the mood generally in this vision?
I remember, because I was kind of like the type of kid that I was doing handstands on the front yard. I cartwheels, handstands, flips. Ended up getting into the gymnastic stuff, and so you're just playing, and it was just not a large plot of land in the front. And I remember, but there was something in the air. There was a weird density of the air quality, and you could see the particles reflecting, and then it
Yes.
was these looked like bubbles. Could be plasma, could be bubbles, could be something it was strange. And I remember just like, oh, I'd like to just, you have bubbles in front of a kid, they want to pop it, and just, that was, and it looked like there was like a density to the air.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
Was it blue? Did you say?
No, it was, it had a transparency appearance to it, like a plasma.
Mm.
Possibly, with certain lighting, it would have had some reflection, but yet if I think about it, the color of the reflection wasn't affecting it. So it was almost like I was seeing into the space, as opposed to that the space was actually transforming, which would have created a refraction of color.
So it was more like a portal kind of effect?
It's a portal, yeah, and I
Cool.
wasn't aware why I was seeing through it, but I was. Yeah, but it didn't have the circular, because I've seen portals that are circular, and this was more of just like random bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I wonder
Yes.
if one of those types is natural and one is man-made. Perhaps like maybe one is technologically based versus an organic, or an analog versus digital. I don't know. Just a thought.
It could have been superimposed, because we do have micro realities, and that is something that
Pocket
is
universes.
pocket universes and so forth. What I did do is as I got older, I thought I'd visit that at another time, and I did see a craft on my front yard.
Mm.
In some sense, we might have been in a craft.
Mm.
That's
In the so so in the environment early, like I remember seeing, well, I still see the environment like this, where if especially if I'm outside in the open air and it's a clear day, especially if it's a clear day, I can still see, and it's just how I see the environment, like particles hitting each other, bouncing off each other. Is that, do you experience that? And did you experience that back then?
yeah. I've experienced that multiple times. It's
Okay.
it's almost like you're looking. It's not just the dust, but it's a little bit quantum.
Yes. Yeah, I've always been looking for answers on that. I had some people say it's, or I'm sensing the orgone energy in the air. I've never found the real thing, but it's definitely how I experience my visuals of the environment, and especially when I'm outside of rooms, or if I'm in well lit places where there's a lot of light refracting.
But we're
So
a construct, aren't we? We're in a construct that has
yes,
building blocks, and some can see a little deeper into the construct, as most others, some refer to it as a matrix.
I think we're several layers deep in several constructs,
Yeah,
to be honest.
yeah, that's true. It's true. Depending, it's particularly where you're at that time.
yeah.
Also, the factor. Yeah.
So all right, so back in this early phase, what was your relationship with the natural world around you? So we have you already experiencing really multi dimensions and have this early ET experience. What about nature? Were you around big nature, ocean, forest?
Probably all of the above. I grew up in a suburb, but I was close enough to go to the woods, as well as close enough to go to the beach. And the my book that I wrote, The Sea or Violets in the Grass, was based on a regression that I did, where I was here again. It's around that same age again, around maybe 7 or 8 years old, and I used to play in the backyard of my neighbors, who ironically her name was Alice, and it was bizarre. And she was like from Syria, and she was, I called her, she was 4 by 4, it was about 4 foot wide, 4 foot tall. It's awesome. She couldn't hear, she could see barely, but she was able to communicate. Brilliant, brilliant woman, older woman, like a grandmother. And
Yeah.
but she'd still get upset when we go in her backyard, but there was all these like beautiful little violets back there, and so I thought, well, I'm gonna go get myself a little miniature bouquet. I'm a little girl, right?
Yeah, yes.
And so I'm looking around, and I, start picking these flowers, and I have some other friends there with me. And something happens, and I realize it in my regression. I didn't realize it at the time, but as I was picking those violets, some kind of weird mist appeared, and then I stepped out and came back again. So I literally went out of dimension.
Wow. What was your perception of that when that happened?
It's very elemental. It was
Yeah.
have a very strong connection to the elementals. I mean,
Yes.
these are the earth energies, and people say, well, they laugh about us. You think like a child or whatever, but these things are real. I mean, everything's alive. Everything has its own, like, kind of like soul essence, right? The plants, the
Yes.
animals, and then there is these other creatures. They're like, little helper creatures, whether you want to call them a fairy, or you want to call them an elf, or you want to call them a leprechaun, whatever. And I mean, people laugh about it, but to some cultures, this is something that they recognize, and it's part of their belief system. But I, like there were certain things that I wasn't raised with, but I came to realize that they existed.
Do you see them as, for me, I mean, I always was in contact with the others, and as I've gotten older, I'm starting, I think now that they are how we were experiencing, or how people are experiencing extraterrestrial type stuff. Like I see, it just seems like an evolution of language or how people are processing it now. Very much the same energy with the different races and interdimensionality, or interstellar, which is still another dimension. Uh, it all seems the same or connected to me.
Yeah, and I mean, if you are connecting to the earth, respecting the earth, and understanding that the earth is a huge living multi-organism, and that it is also connected to the greater space of our galaxy and our universe, and in in real time, there is no distance that people think that there is a distance. I mean, at any time you could be here and be all the way at the end of the universe somewhere.
Yeah, but where is that really?
I don't know. I mean, it's just
It's
something that you can experience. I mean,
have you entertained the thought that it's not a physical location?
yeah, yeah. There's so many. It's hard to describe something because it is not
In this dimension.
in this dimension, right? But in time space is there's so many different dynamics that go into something like that happening.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, you can be, when I communicated with Andronicus,
Hmm.
in the Andronicus transmission, the first time I communicated with him was after I did a regression with someone, and he started coming through to me. And when I realized that I was talking to him from way back in time, prior to the human race, yet I was speaking to him clearly like it was real time. And the distance of where he was at, somewhere in Andromeda, I mean, that really blew my mind. I sat back and I said, "You got to be kidding me. How in the world did this happen?"
Because there's no distance between you two.
Right. There was a desire to communicate
Yes.
at that moment.
You see, it's like a frequency thing where you just tune into each other's vibration in a way,
Frequency.
or a channel. Yeah, I mean, it's a frequency.
It's like a radio.
When Jessica, when you were very young, also, did you have any fears, like the classic stuff, even fear of under the bed or of the dark, something in the closet, something in the wood?
It's funny, you're gonna laugh at this one. I wasn't the one that I was really afraid of. I'm telling you the truth, is those robots.
Yeah.
I know that they were cold-blooded killers if they needed to be. Um, but I did have a whole bunch of witches that was speaking to me through a closet when I was a kid.
Oh, wow. Well, can you
And
give us some of that information?
yeah, this is a weird story. I mean, remember, I live in New England, and I live near the Boston area, which is, I wasn't really that close, but close enough to Salem, Massachusetts, where the hangings were and the witch trials and all that stuff. And I somehow, they tuned into, we talk about frequency, somehow they tuned into, or they recognized. I'm pretty confident that I was there. I believe I was a child when the witch trials were on. I had to figure that out because I was trying to figure out why they all came to me. And they weren't like threatening me or anything. They were just like, challenging me, or asking me questions. I wasn't afraid, but it was a little unnerving at the time because I was young and they were older women. So that was a really weird experience. So years later, I did do some research on it. I lived up in North Andover, which is next to Andover, where I guess the real witches were. And then it kind of spread out to like Beverly and Salem and that whole area where the, you know, the people that weren't even witches, I think, got killed. But there were practicing witches in the town. Well, technically, you know, there were a lot of them were just like herbalists, you know. I won't say that they were like, you know, just trying to be evil or anything like that. It was just sort of the nature of doing certain things that they were often accused. I mean, you know the whole thing about how some of the women were accused.
Yeah.
Just
Oh,
because
yeah.
might have been a strong woman, or and
Well, land grab. There's a bunch of stuff going on.
land grab, absolutely. That there is proof of that. That if the land was appealing, that they would accuse people of being witches, so they would take the land, and they have used that tactic. You know, I mean, land grab is usually typically the cause for a lot of things.
Yeah.
I'm sure the Rothschilds had something to do with it.
So
I'm kidding.
these witches were communicating to you from a closet.
From my closet, yeah. The
Oh,
Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
I love it's the first thing I thought of. I love it. I also thought of Witchy Poo. There's like one of the Bugs Bunny things, I think, with her. Was it Witchy
No,
Poo?
it was
Broomhilda.
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
Witchy Poo
Broomhilda.
is the other one.
In H.R. Puff and stuff,
Thank
right?
you. Yes, not Rankin Bass, but the other
That
guy.
one,
Yeah.
Sid and Marty Croft.
Broomhilda, though, she was like in and out of that closet with her pins. I loved her.
The hairpins, yeah, that was funny.
She's so great. Okay, and so back in this early period, also, what kind of experiences or dreams do you have any memory of at this point, as far as dream experience?
Oh, I mean, I've had some really weird lucid dreams.
As a young person?
The young person, I have to think about it. I mean, there were times when, of course, you know, you have nightmares and things, premonitions. See something. I remember having a dream of a commercial that actually, yeah, I remember going to school and saying, "Hey, yeah, I remember that commercial," and everyone was looking at me like, "What are you talking about?" And then it would show up about 6 months later.
Was one of them like the Mother Nature one? Don't mess with Mother. Do you remember that one?
I do remember that.
That was so great.
Remember which
The lightning bolt came.
So great.
one? Yeah,
Th-
but that was a butter commercial or something, wasn't it?
I can't even remember what it was, but that image will never leave
Margarine, something margarine,
me. Isn't that great?
right?
Was it Parquet?
Something like that.
There was
It
another
wa-
one with the crown, like a gold crown, or I'll find it.
Blue bonnet. No? Blue bonnet.
Everything tastes better with blue bonnet on it.
Yeah.
These these things that stick. Okay, so in the dreamscape for you as a young person, how did it well, we're gonna move forward, of course, but sticking with you younger, and it doesn't have to be young, like early. It just you younger. What and I like preteen up to teens, if we can get kind of that detail. Were you able to do you have flying dreams? Were you interactive with dreams? What was the dreamscape like in this period where you're in the teens, in that area around when puberty starts?
I don't, you know, it's kind of weird. I had this ongoing dream of living another life while I was, it's like being in the same town but having an overlay of another experience where I was kind of alone with someone, this person, and I remember him talking to me, and it would keep coming up in the dreams. I attributed that to a my lab experience.
Mm.
That's probably about the time, and it was really weird because that was like I was with someone that was much older than me, and that we were married, and I wasn't allowed to tell anybody or in a relationship. Really weird, very weird.
Did
So
you feel really emotionally connected to it,
yeah,
to that person?
I did almost like I was relying on him
Mm-hmm.
to help me to survive, which is kind of a strange thing for a young teenage kid going through.
Yes. And so, do you have any recollection of the dream images around that? Possibly the wipe that they used, the screen?
It was the exact same town. It was like they took the all the appearance of everything that I was familiar with, inserted him, and then all of a sudden it's like I didn't have a voice or there was a wall that didn't allow me to communicate with anyone. And I remember a certain feeling, a specific feeling was isolating in a way, but also uh, like why can't we share this with everyone, or what, why is it like, perplexed, confused, not understanding what I was actually going through. It was very strange, very, very.
And what was the relationship like with your parents? Like, were you able to talk about dreams at all with them? Did you have any of that kind of candidness going on?
No, no, I mean I was not free to talk about any of this stuff. I didn't want them to. I felt that they didn't understand. And so, as I said, at a young age, I was very shy. I was really, really quiet, and I withdrew, particularly because I felt like the things that I was experiencing, others weren't, and I didn't want to look different. And I didn't like if I said something to my mother, like I knew something about my father, and I like kind of expressed it. It was like I knew everything that was going on, but I was afraid to say anything. And I just, as I got older, I became much more open and bold about what I had to talk about. But it felt very like I wasn't allowed to come forward. And I think a lot of people feel that way.
Yeah,
So,
definitely.
especially at that time period, you know, they were very closed minded.
Were you brought up in a religious household?
I wouldn't say really religious. We were Roman Catholic, but my mother was, she didn't enforce any religion or belief system on us. Um, I mean, I sort of started being curious about religion and trying to understand what a lot of this stuff meant, because I knew I was having these strange experiences and other things around me that were difficult. Um, so I was trying to sort through it all, and but it wasn't that. It was more of my mother was very, very quiet, reserved, and kind of an old-fashioned Italian. If you understand any of that,
Oh,
was
yes, 100%.
yeah, like just do your stuff, don't talk about it. It just wasn't very open in my house. So everything was more closed mouthed, and if you made a big deal over anything, it drew attention, and a lot of times the attention it wasn't a positive thing. So I just it took me a while before I could confide in anyone regarding some of this stuff. Oh, way later, way later. I was much older.
And since it's you, and since we've already talked about, we've already brought my labs and all this in, and anyone who follows you knows all this stuff, but just just for the sake of the building blocks here, were you was your father or anyone around you in the military or contracted by the military?
Yeah, my father was in the U.S. military, Navy, and
Navy intelligence or just the Navy? Navy.
Uh, I would
They,
just say Navy. I mean, I don't think he had any high level. He worked with the pharmacist. The,
Oh, really?
yeah, that's
it's
all I know. I mean, my father passed when I was 12, so I have limited amount of information regarding his military. But yeah, I'm sure that had contributed.
is it at 12? Okay. Is it possible we can talk about your papa?
Yeah, sure.
So he passed when you were 12. Do you recall having any dreams beforehand about his passing?
Yeah.
Could you share those or what you recall of them?
Um, I remember having a feeling that he was going to die, and then it wasn't long after that he got sick. So I had no idea, but I was a little, when I actually blamed myself. I actually thought that I brought that in.
Because you had thought that it was happening?
Right. Hmm.
And eh, in this, well, 12 is so young to lose a parent. And were you close to him?
No, I mean there was quite a few children in the family. There's about six of us, so I was kind of in the background. So there was a lot going on. I had older siblings, and they were going through their whole rebellious thing, and a couple of them were hippies, and you know, at the so they created a lot of distraction. The first three, created a lot of distraction in my household, and I remember just like seeing them argue and cut your hair and those kind of conversations, and so I just kind of stayed in the background, and
Were you the baby?
I was the second to youngest.
And
Yeah.
so when your papa passed, did you have how did he show up in your dream life at all? And if he did, how did that happen and what went on through the dream communications?
I remember when after he died, I couldn't walk past the bedroom without feeling him looking at me,
Mm.
and which was fine, but it was just kind of a weird thing. And oh, another strange thing that came up was I was invited by the Lakota to go to Sundance in South Dakota, and I went out there as a dancer, um, as part of the ceremony. And
Mhm.
yes, and of course we smoked a peace pipe, and, went through the whole process, and it's a very private ceremony, so I enjoyed that. I'm not changing the subject, but what was really weird is you get into visions when you're dancing for a whole week, and
Yes.
the drums beating, and it's very trance-like, and so you're having this experience, and suddenly I see my father, and I'm like, "What are you doing here?" It was like he had this native spirit or something. It was really weird. It was kind of cool. Um, and it brought me back to a time where I remember watching television with him, and he, here he is, like this very Italian guy, and we're watching this like cowboy and Indian type of show, and I don't know how old I was. I was young, and we were watching how the whole thing was playing out, and he pointed out the native people, and he said, "You see them?" He says that the Indians, he says they're good people. He said that they don't bother anyone. He said they just want to take care of everything. He said you're not. They make them look bad on television.
Oh, it's giving me the chills
Yeah,
in a good way. How old were you when that happened?
I'm trying to remember. I might have been between the age of 6 and 8 or so. I was just watching television with him, but like it was important for him to point out little things like that,
Yeah.
because it was very specific. It's something that I remembered years later, and I thought when I saw him at that Sundance, I was pretty shocked. but then I thought, no, maybe not. Maybe he had like a native spirit about him, you know?
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like there's definitely a connection there. How old were you when you did the Sundance thing?
Probably it was probably about maybe 10 years ago.
Oh, recently.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Had
wow.
you ever taken any psychedelics before that?
No,
Hmm.
no. Because I was concerned I was already like that. What would happen to me if I took anything else?
And that is the common answer we get from people who already switched on, whatever you want to call it. So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm curious how your perception changed afterwards, or if that had any effect on you at all, other than maybe getting rid of some old shit.
It did. I mean, you know, I mean it's very it's elevating, you know, it's kind of freeing because the way our society is very rigid, and you know everyone wants you to fit into your own little niche. And when you're in a space like that, you know, there's a liberating feeling, and you can connect to the earth without apology. You don't have to be called, you know, that you're strange or weird or anything like that. It's just, you know, you experience the oneness with the earth, you experience the oneness with people,
Hmm.
collaborating and sharing with people of a different culture, which you realize very quickly they're not much different than you are. So, I mean, all of that is just like a really nice experience. And um, and then you have to come home, and you have to get on the highway and see everyone so stressed going to work and doing their 9 to 5. And I know there's a better way, and everyone knows that there's a better way, but we just need to kind of get through that. But yeah, that's what it did for me. I mean, more than anything, I don't really need the psychedelics. I mean, I feel like, if anything, I think I got stoned one time. I mean, I have, you know, smoked pot. I mean, it's
It doesn't count. That's not a drug.
not a someone put I think it was one of those edibles, you know, and I was like, oh, it's not a big deal. I'm gonna have some of that.
And you were trashed.
They had something else in there, and I was like, I felt like I was in a box. And I'm like, I don't know who created this. I said, but I don't like this box. I don't want to be in here. I said, I thought I was going to just like, you know, because I'm not like a big smoker. I mean, I think if I did it like once a year or something like that, it was fine. It wasn't a big deal. I mean, I did, you know, of course, when I was younger, but not a whole lot still. But anyhow, it usually wasn't like that. You usually smoke, right? You feel good, everything's nice, and you go to sleep. And in this occasion, I was like in this box. You know what I mean? It's like at it, I don't know what it was. So I thought like if I do psychedelics or anything like that, if it's going to make me feel like I'm constrained in any way, I didn't want it. I want it
Mm.
still. I like that freedom, the liberation. You know.
I'm only asking this for a curiosity reason. I'm just curious of how. So, okay, so if you look at a person who's not a psychic, right, and
Hmm.
they take these drugs, they get this expanded awareness experience. Like their consciousness opens up, right? That there's more out there than what's. They get this really interesting experience. I'm curious if the psychic experience is the same or if it's different. And I really, what I really want to know is it a manufactured thing? You know, is it fake? That reality, is it just part of the program? And because you're psychic, you probably see through it, or you're not allowed to go there. Hence the box, because you're.
I I got angry about it
Mm.
actually because I felt like it was manufactured, and um, especially the man-made stuff.
Mm.
It may even have some kind of nanotech or something in it that actually drives the experience as opposed to opening up to it. At least a plant has its own expression, right? The plant is actually bringing you into a space. That's why it's kind of dangerous with like heroin. something like that. Technically, it's a plant. I actually, I had a few friends that lost children or almost lost their children. We went and did a ceremony for the poppy plant. I said, please have compassion on humanity. Whatever it is that you're angry about, can you resolve that? Because so many people are addicted to it. And so, but it's the plant does do something. It will take you somewhere. According to some, I talked to someone who was Lyran, and they said that marijuana was brought here from the Pleiades or Lyra, and probably the poppies were as well, and so these things that were even the cocaine plant. So, and this stuff, shouldn't be abused. I mean, when the native people, the indigenous people use this stuff, they didn't just go haywire with. They did it, and they had it controlled. So if you have a respect for some of that stuff, I mean, I'm not advocating people to do it, but I am saying that there's definitely a difference between that and LSD, I would say, because that's the way that if a government's handing something out, trust me, it's for an agenda. And if they're saying that marijuana is legal, then maybe they're doing some stuff to it as well. So that crossed my mind also.
They will eventually. It'll all have to go through a certain, certification, right?
Yeah, well, like the GMOs,
that's coming next. There's going to be GMO weed. I think there already is a couple of patents, whatever, copyrights, however they do it, out there.
Yeah. Nothing's for free, or there's no. Yeah, so when it comes to the government, there's always a trade-off.
Yeah, they're all dicks.
Yeah. There's a lot of marijuana that's been altered out there right now, and so, and anyone who smoked a very long time knows that just from having smoked a long time. The weed of today is way different from the weed of the 70s and 80s and probably 60s.
Yeah.
I mean, no doubt about it. There's that whole joke about trying to find your way home sometimes, taking a hit off of modern day weed that's been altered. Like you're so far out, you can't find your way home.
That's what I'm talking about. That's exactly, that's that stuff. I don't know what it is.
I love good old ditchweed. I'm always gonna love it. It's just natural. I don't, we could talk weed all day though. So I want to get back to the dream fundamentals here. So let's just talk dreams, the dream mechanics, and get that all kind of knocked out. When you dream, and this is just really the totality of your life at this point and where you are, and how it's all evolved. What are the mechanics? What's the architecture here? What does it look like? Smell, do you have sensate stuff, smell, touch, feel? Is, all the clairs involved, clairsentience and audience? Like what does the experience feel and look like and smell and taste like for you?
I have, just like anyone, I have a variety of, there's a few different types of dreams you can have, but the lucid ones are pretty powerful. I mean, I've been on another planet or some other space before, and I remember being guided by this being that was taking me. It looked like a mall on the inside, and all of them were like bald-headed and had these long robes on. We were walking on this walkway, and I don't recall any sky. Just it seemed like a ceiling of some sort. It was all white, but not like bright white. It was like a regular white, and just kind of following him and acknowledging that he was there as my guide. And in the end, he gave me a kiss on the lips, like a quick kiss. I could feel it. I could hear him. I could see them. I saw the way that they looked at me. They knew I didn't belong there. I mean, the whole thing, and that was just a dream. It was a lucid dream, or it was a visitation. I don't know exactly what it was.
And had you experienced him? So you say he's a guide. So had you experienced him in that state before?
No, That only happened once. I,
And when the kiss happened, and this is when you're at a high state of lucidity, or did the kiss bring on the lucidity?
I was already in a high state of lucidity because I was looking at their faces, looking at me like, "What are you doing here?" Like they knew I didn't belong there. And I was like wondering what our destination was and was completely thrown off, but the kiss actually woke me up. And then I recall, had a recollection of the whole dream. It was
That's incredible. So let's talk lucidity for a minute. What are the different states how high of lucidity do you get? Do you get full on out of body stuff? I've got little dogs going. They have a comment
I
here.
got cats rubbing up against me, driving me insane.
They're saying hello, Jessica. Do you get to full on out of body with your lucidity? For me, and so let me state, I see it as a sliding scale. And so the out of body experience is like the highest form of being lucid because you're out of body and you're obviously really inhabiting that moment.
Yeah, it's almost as if you feel like that is your reality at the time. Um, my more recent dreams have been weird. I've been in these spaces that I don't want to be in, and it feels like um, controlled spaces, being observed type of thing.
Can you describe those?
Yeah, there's always these all different people, all different types of people, and they're in the same situation I'm in, and we're trying to sort it out. But some of them, I think, are handlers, and I think that possibly because of the work I'm doing or whatever, but they're integrating into my sleep space, and I know I'm not the only one. Other people have been talking about it, and I feel like it's a control. It just feels like a controlled space, room, or a house of some sort, and they're observing.
Is the control coming from our timeline, our dimension? Or are you being pulled out of here into another space?
It's really hard to tell.
Hmm.
It's really hard to tell. I mean, even the my labs here. I mean, if you tell people there's a my lab there, they can go digging for it. They can try to look for the tunnel. They're not going to find it. But yet there'll be multiple stories of people remembering the same thing and thinking that it's that direction right there. So it's off dimension. It's
Yeah,
like,
I think you have to be in a certain state, certain altered state to access that. Yeah, I have thoughts about it. But yeah, I completely understand, yes.
yeah, yeah. And I think that's where we're at right now on the planet.
It's out of phase, that's the way to put it.
Out of phase, yeah. And usually they're pulling you out through the astral. But it feels like you're there with your physical body.
When you have you ever experienced that silver cord dealy with your astral body?
Yeah, I have. I don't recall exactly when, but I do remember.
A lot of people that we've talked to have had that when they travel and they're afraid they can't go too far. You know, it's restricting in a way, but it's also a way home. And I'm wondering if anyone has those in that space, in that wherever you're at.
You don't usually see them. I mean, I think a lot is hidden. So what you think that you're seeing isn't exactly what you're seeing. It's kind of like, someone was describing to me a story about how, I think it was a movie or something, and you see your surroundings the way that they want you to see them, but actually it might be like a garage, or something,
Right.
or very um, structurally, kind of not finished.
It could be a spaceship. It could be anything.
Could be anything.
Yeah.
You don't really know, but you know that there's an overlay there.
There's a well, I forgot what my thought was now. Oh, the silver cord. So if you yourself had a silver cord and you remember it and you know where it was attached to you, right? If you ever find yourself lucid in one of those spaces, just remember, oh, I have my cord, and feel for it because it'll be there. and you can pull yourself out of that space.
Good advice.
That's a thought. It just popped in my head. So
Yeah.
See, I don't have the cord.
you do. You probably just ignore it.
It's possible, but it's something I've always kind of tried to look for. Again, it's what Jessica just said. There's a bunch of stuff that it could just be, I'm not even seeing it, even though it's there. I wonder
I
though.
I just want to mess with them as much as possible.
What? So these that are observing you, what do they look like?
They look like regular people. You know that there's something behind it. You know,
What gives you the thought to wonder that something's behind it, that there's something not right about it when you're in that state?
It's a feeling of that I'm with people that I don't really feel like I want to be in their space. And if they're not regular people, I feel like they're maybe trying to get into my head, or like they have me locked in, like I feel confined. You know, here again, it's that sort of can't get out of this room type of thing. So yeah, it's a really a strange.
Yeah, that I was just thinking the feeling of feeling trapped, possibly.
Yeah, and I don't think that they expect that I'll remember. This is the thing that has probably gotten them really aggravated with me, is that I remember a lot of it. And a lot of people talk about how they don't remember. I remember a lot, and I usually try to write it down and share it because I want people to know what's going on, as opposed to some people are like, well, don't talk about it. You know, it gets you in trouble. No, it gets me in more trouble.
Get you in trouble with whom?
Well, they're like, well, they'll come after you. But I'm like, this is why I went public, is because if you come right out and talk about it, then if anything happens to you, then you know you're public. Everyone knows that you're missing. So you stay very much out there and let people know what's going on. I was informed that there was an incident a while back that I had to keep moving around because there was a certain group that, and I'm not talking about ETs, I'm saying that there was a government group, I won't say who, but there was someone that had a problem with what I was doing, and so they asked me to keep moving around, and I did that. So I mean, it's a weird thing. It's a very weird thing. But these are the same ones that are coming into the dream space. We're talking about, you know, secret programs and so forth.
Are you doing energy work? Is that what's pissing them off?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
But that's what I'm here for. That's, you know, that was my agreement coming to the planet in the first place. So that's what I do, fulfill my agreements. I don't always make friends, and sometimes I make a lot of friends. It all depends on what's going on. But there are a lot of people that um, need help, and there's a lot of people on the earth that, you know, we need some shifts and changes, and there are a lot of invading species, things like that on the planet that need to find their exit door. So,
like birds. Birds need to go.
oh, you don't like birds?
Not really.
Well, depends on which ones.
Okay, I'll settle for mosquitoes.
Oh, Jer. I don't like the mosquitoes. So, okay, so in the dreamscape, is there architecture? So now when I talk architecture, I'm talking about actual structures now, that is reoccurring or seems the same, even though it may not be the same, like a house that is your house, but it you know, is possibly different every time you see it, but it's still the feeling of this is my house. So this applies to cities, malls, and any kind of like architectural, structural stuff going on in the dream time space.
When I was a child, I have no idea why, but they would would transform my parents' bedroom at night and bring me in there, and different ones would be in there. That was weird.
When you say different ones, what do you mean?
I had visitors. I had lots of visitors.
What and so could you give us an idea of some of the visitors, like as far as when and it's coming from you, so I have to question this, like were these Arcturians? I mean, were they human? Were they non-human? What were they?
Well, this is how I got involved with the ACIO, the Alien Contact Information Organization. Um, they contacted me, or we started talking, because they said that I was a part of what's called the Numbers Group. And I asked, what is the Numbers Group? And it says, I guess the Council of Five has been around overseeing the planet prior to humanity. They have identified different ones that have come to visit, and so I was under the category of an unknown, so they gave me a number 12. And so this is, I don't know, the process of the ACIO. They know when I was born, where I was born, and they saw some activity. They checked it out. And so because they were not the only ones that saw that I came in, I guess, that others came to visit. And someone by the number 15, I guess, came to visit me when I was a young girl. And she came in. She looked like a very, like she was real, human, in physical form. I was listening to some records in the den, some, rock and roll music or something, and she walked in through the door. She was wild-eyed, big blue eyes, great, curly hair, and wanted to take me somewhere. Was reaching out her hand to ask if I wanted to go with her. And so years later, I talked to Peter the Insider, and he said, well, that was number 15. She was over you. And I said, what does that mean? Well, she was over all the numbers group, and she was supposed to be controlling you in some way. And I said, well, I rebelled. He says, well, that's why she's angry at you. So I don't know, it was conversations like that. I had others come in that would pick me up as a little girl and would talk to me. And I think that they were a group of 12 deep Pleiadians. And they would come in, and they were like a couple different men. Sometimes they were wearing hats. Sometimes they had, like, I don't know, unusual looking eyes, like eyes were sparkly, kind of like different. And I just remember, like, I'd go in the next morning and look in my parents' bedroom, and it's like, it looks normal. And, and then I have these memories of like this weird transformation happen. So, yeah, it's regarding having a space that keeps changing for whatever reason that happens. But I guess that was part of the reason why they were coming in, and they were like altering things. They were doing things. They were manipulating, affecting, my timeline, whatever I was supposed to do here. So yeah, it was weird. There was a lot of weird stuff that I, of course, couldn't talk to anyone until I got older.
And so in all this too, okay, first of all, is it possible that you're Rh negative?
No, I'm not.
Okay. And in all this, were you ever experiencing, and do you ever experience sleep paralysis?
I did on a few occasions. I've been attacked in my sleep, where something grabbed me from behind. Just imagine this. Someone physically grabbing you from behind had you in like a lock hold, and you can't see them. It's like the Invisible Man or something. It's really weird and frightening situation. That's scary. And so, and I don't know if it's scary because it's like a sensory thing, like if something's holding on to you, you need to be seeing them, or just the idea that someone was trying to do something and you're like half asleep or half awake and you feel that. So that kind of thing has happened to me a few times, where that they and it happened to me when I was younger too. Well, I want to say in my early 20s, that like a few different things happened to me in that space as well, where that physically feeling someone there, but they're not, you can't see them.
How do you work your way out of those situations in general?
Um, and and what happens is it's that trying to scream, but knowing you can't.
Yes.
And so you're like,
It's a bit terrifying.
it is, and you probably like swearing, like in your mind, you're like, get the fuck off of me, like just get away from me. And just trying to break free of it, and finally they do but it's probably happened a handful of times, but it's memorable. I mean, you never forget anything like that. That one's a weird one.
And so also in this experience of the dreamscape, do you have are you able to, so I'm assuming you are at higher levels of lucidity, but in general, in your general dreams, do you find that you're able to fly or have abilities you are more constrained with here in what we consider waking life?
Yeah, I mean, I not just in my dreams, but I have day vision.
Ooh, tell us about those.
That's been going on since I was a child as well. It's almost like I can go to a whole different place. And that's where I do my readings for people, where they ask me to do a session with them, and we have a discussion, and they'll ask me to tell them something about themselves, and I can literally go to that place and observe it and watch them maybe in another lifetime or whatever. It's almost like it's like a movie. I watch the movie and I know what's going on around me with it. It's like an inner seeing, and that opened up probably very, very well. I was experiencing it a bit when I was a child, and it freaked me out because I closed my eyes and I start seeing like whole story, all these things going on to be awake. But then it really opened up. I want to say probably about 15 years ago. I was walking down the street, and um, uh, it was like a movie opened up in my third eye, and I started seeing myself getting killed down south somewhere. It was a life down south, and I started crying. I thought, I'm losing my mind. What's happening to me? You get scared because it's like, you already feel like a little bit on edge because you're somewhat psychic. You don't want to be different. You don't want to be pointed out. And then something like this happens, and then you think, oh, this is it. It's all over for me. So but then since then I realized that it's an ability that I can use to see who's past life, Akashic records, and so the visions happen. I can remote view, but I'm careful about remote viewing because sometimes there's someone waiting on the other end looking as well. Dangerous. A lot of people don't realize that about remote viewing.
Yeah, I love the stories Jason Quitt talks about with that stuff. When you encounter someone, so for example, with the remote viewing, when you get to your location, you encounter that you're being observed, having just shown up. How does that usually play out for you?
Sometimes they'll threaten you. They'll threaten you, and what people don't realize is they can come back and they can mess with your life and your timeline. So you think that it's just that one shot that they have, but I remember a friend of mine said that he was abducted, and I actually did. It was a show that I did with Jimmy, and he said, "You want to take a look at it?" He goes, "It happened in this year." And so I started to look into it, and I saw what looked like a Nazi ship. And and then he said, "Is it Mengele?" And I looked, and I'm like, "Oh yeah, I think it is." And in like 1 second, I saw him go down into my past. He messed with my childhood and came back, and like that, in like a second. And I said, "I'm screwed." I said, I can't believe this. It happened that quick.
That's alarming. How did you so you get back from that, how do you go and try and protect yourself or clean that up?
It's something that already happened.
Right, and so you can't pinpoint exactly what it is.
At that moment, I knew that he went in and messed around, got me into a my lab, and they did experiments on me, which I do have confirmation from Peter on that one,
Mhm.
and in memories too. And so, I just now I know how they accessed it. It was me observing him at that moment.
But that came after your experiences with my lab.
But did it?
Well, this
See,
is
I can see how this works.
well,
I
no,
see it.
I want to bring it back to a discussion she and I were having before the show about a time loop. Are you yourself in a time loop now?
It could be.
Hmm.
It could, yeah. And that's exactly what Duncan Cameron said to me after he had passed, that we're the people that were in the secret space program are in and to try to get out of the time loop because they're perpetuating these things. Yeah,
And I'm sure at one point they're going to be shut down.
absolutely. Absolutely. We can't perpetuate it because the more we talk about it, the more we reveal it, then the more people will be free of it. But meanwhile, I mean, look at the pain a lot of people have had to go through and how they target children. I mean, according to the ACIO, it starts at the age of 3 for some people. That's really young, and that's a horrific thing.
Those are my first
It's
memories,
like
is
3 to
from the age of
6.
3.
Yeah, are like the most interfaceable with the child.
Hmm.
They get the best brain control from that age.
Yeah,
Thank you, Dr. Mengele.
yeah.
Yeah, but if by shutting it down, though, there's so much causality involved here. I mean, where does it unravel?
Right, and how much of our future has already been affected
Yeah.
that could have, yeah. So
I mean, we could just have our minds in a tangle just thinking about this. So they go and affect it. I mean, it makes me think of Fringe immediately, of course.
It is all. This is Fringe. I mean, this
Yes.
is right here. This is where they get all their storylines from us, but they never give us money. Profit off of it, we struggle, right?
Oh, of course. That's the name of the
but
game.
maybe our stories are just in the cloud and they got them too.
No, they take it from us. I know they do.
I know that's true too.
Yeah, I've talked about stuff, and then a couple months later, I see a movie, and I'm like, "There's no way." They even have names and everything. That's
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah. That is astonishing to me sometimes, how the synchronicity of things that or have talked about come out simultaneously, or or you're just a little bit before and it comes out like this. Just experienced this myself. I have experienced this myself. It's that whole I mean, that's truly the nature of uncanny. uh I'm wondering, so as we're talking about all this, I can't help but wondering, with you in particular, Jessica, how do you hone in on like a pinpoint? And when I say pinpoint, I really do mean with blinders on, because if we're pinpointing something, we're not looking in the periphery, right? We're honed in on one dot, one spot. How do you hone consciousness in to know where you are at any given time? So what's a dream? What's reality? What is you accessing other realities, how do you function within all of this as Jessica?
It's kind of I've actually been complimented by some people that they say, how is it that a lot of seers kind of have like their life is a mess and you seem to handle it very easily? And I said, I don't know. I mean, I not easily completely, but it's understanding and management of what's coming through. I try to have a notepad with me because you have to do your day-to-day stuff. I understand when I'm working that I'm kind of in that mode and I'm helping people. And then, but there are times when I can just like be completely liberated and, talking to someone, laughing, everything's fine. And then out of nowhere, yeah, information comes through. And it's like pertinent information that's here to help somebody or help, the planet or something like that. So, it's a natural juggling. I also understand that there's a different feeling and a knowing regarding certain. So, when I am, it depends on who I'm communicating with, what I'm communicating about. If I'm working with someone, sometimes I'll get dates, time, names, and other times, like, it would just be visions, and then I have to, ask what is that? Who, what is it that I'm seeing? What am I looking at? And to get more information. And then if someone is sort of looking in my space, remote viewing in my space, I might see them too. Or something's looking in my space, and kind of you try not to ignore those things either. So if you're sensitive, feeling the things that are around you as well. So there's a lot of things happening at once. I have been called a bit of a daydreamer. I think people didn't realize what I was experiencing. I didn't fully realize. I thought my experience was common, especially growing up. So I didn't think it was any big deal. And it wasn't until later that I realized that I was sort of multitasking in this way.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's always the funny part about that, our perspective too, is we always think it's, as young people, always think it's the norm. And then we get out and realize it's, how big the world is and small at the same time. So what about, so I'm interested in, and I had this written down and I wanted to get here before it got too late in the show. Have you had dreams recently, or maybe I should phrase this way? What have your dreams recently been of this timeline we're on and what, say, the next 22 months might look like? Do you have precognitive stuff happen in your dreams? And if so, what give us some insight.
Um, you think of the things that's happening right now. It's some of the my lab stuff is trying to reveal, like, people are starting to find out more things that are happening to them. There's also a breakdown in some of the Earth's systems, so the powers that have been running the planet. Uh, Somewhere I got this feedback from a few different people of feeling suicidal, and I say that there are certain beings on the planet that are broadcasters. So they broadcast typically, to persuade the planet. And I know this sounds like really weird, but they're not necessarily God. They create like a voice of God type of environment or AI or projection.
Does it come from the moon?
No, they're here on the planet.
Okay.
And like old beings they're able to kind of like Illuminati type of beings or whatever, because they're not
Like old dried up lizards who live underground.
something like that. I
But
think that they're starting to.
The Skeksis.
yeah, that's what I was Dark Crystal. Yeah, are they in this physical reality? Or are they in those out of phase ones? Or
I think both. They can do both.
yeah, cool
Yeah.
shapeshifters.
I catch a few of them. Sometimes they look like old men. And there's also the Fifth Reich. They look like old men. But as Peter says, they're the Third Reich, but matured, older.
Peter, who's Peter?
They're the insider.
Oh, okay, right.
Yeah. Yeah. So sometimes I'll see them, but there's one of them is not doing well, and so thoughts of suicide. I just want people to know that if they're having these little thoughts of suicide, it could be a broadcast, and not that it's their own thoughts. That concerns me.
Are these those like I don't like the I don't know what they were called. Like there was only a limited number of them, like 20 or 13 or something, and they're like called mothers, and they have different areas of expertise. Like that's a different group of people, right?
There's a lot of different groups like that, but I've heard of there's a mother hierarchy.
Yeah.
Kind of weird. I call one of them like Esmeralda.
There was a crazy story on, I think it was Creepypasta or Reddit, I don't remember, about a woman who called herself Mother. She was one of those people at CERN.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They take on the role. It's almost like and there's also a fake Gaia too. There's an AI Gaia that wears a red dress. I've seen her a few times. Almost dresses like he's British with a red hat. It's crazy. I could hear her clearly, and I'm like, what?
I wouldn't be surprised if they were all AI.
Yeah.
Yeah. At this point, especially.
Or what? Not, non-human intelligence. AI is such a loaded term.
Yeah.
Yeah. And go ahead.
No, I mean, I was just today listening to your latest show, and so the Esmeralda and Gaia stuff you're talking about, and I just didn't want that show to end. That I'm intrigued by that aspect of the reptilians under this guise.
Yeah. Well, there's each species, like the Greys, the 12D Pleiadian. I know some people are like so bought into the Pleiadians they can't imagine that they're negative. And there's of course reptilians, and there's mantids. They all sort of have their like hierarchy, and also kind of this mother sort of image, and so, or matriarch patriarch type of thing, and they do communicate to different people, different places. And personally, I don't like to, I've bumped into some of these beings, and plus there's this hierarchy of these angels too, and some of them are helpful, some of them are just like they try to they're more menacing, they can give you a hard time or whatever. And so and they sometimes will shapeshift as male or female and do all sorts of crazy stuff.
This is a perfect time for my new catchphrase. Everything is demons. It's all demons.
Jerry, are they accessing? So, in context to dreaming, how do these beings affect us through the dream portal? And so I'm specifically asking this about, say, the person that is not aware or doesn't give any credence to any of this other stuff. And so your normal Joe getting up, going to work, doing all the doing all the daily stuff. And we're all in this together. So I don't want to.
No, it's a tough ride.
We are all in this together. So, but the normal person that's just on the grind, doing the grind every day, that doesn't pay attention to any of this stuff, are these beings interacting with them through the dream portal?
They are. What happened is they have integrated and invaded our astral space. That's the problem. Plus, the advanced corporations are really projecting the AI to pursue their agenda. So we're getting bombarded, and then there are people that are sleeping with the TV on, which we know are subliminals, lots of subliminals, and trying to control, manipulate, and integrate into thinking. And so it's like, can we be clear of it? I think that they're trying to clear a lot of what's in the astral space, because that's what's kind of coming in and hijacking, manipulating, and altering dreams. Because some of the dreams are have been weird, um, and some of those beings have been removed, but we could still probably remove a few more from the astral space. But yeah, everyone's getting affected by it, but how they're dealing with it is ignoring it, maybe having a beer, maybe trying to just think it's their crazy imagination, um, uh, keeping their minds occupied with work or some other activities. But and also um, hearing what you think it's your thought. I had people come to me and say that they had thoughts of doing this or that, and they felt like a resistance to it, thinking that it was their own thoughts and it wasn't. This, whether it's scalar or something going on where you know uh, I tell people to shut down, delete, uninstall, remove any, do not allow, you don't consent, trying to do all those revocations, everything you can to maintain your sovereignty in this space as much as possible, especially with this big launching of 5G. And we know if they're bragging about 5G, then they already have even more stuff going on. So, in satellites.
6G.
Yeah, yeah, and not to mention what else that they're doing. I mean, that whole social credit system over in China is a big issue.
There's one here too.
It's here. It's been underpinned here for quite a while, and it's slowly rolling out.
It started years ago with the FICO score, and the social media is just an expansion of that, and they're using it for new people coming into the country. For immigrants, have to report all the social media stuff.
Well, on aggregate sites like My Life, where people can go in and rate you and all that. So do you have any tools to give people that may be stumbling upon this and that are questioning things that are happening, say in their dream? A lot of this starts in your dreams, and that are questioning the dreams they're having recently that might seem odd or alarming, or just a strange synchronistic events that are starting to line up, numbers and all that. Do you have tools to give people to help deal with this kind of energy and these, at least the, I guess, negative energies?
I think people that are just dealing with the day-to-day challenges. I mean, I recommend staying in doing some point of meditation, even if it's a couple minutes a day, to ask for clearing, to ask for protection, because it is a physical exterior uh, invasion that we're dealing with. But you can also, if you feel like it actually gets into your thinking, you want to shut it down. Shut down, delete, uninstall. Like I said, using your words. Your words are very, very powerful. Say it out loud that you don't consent to this, and that you don't want. If you feel like the thoughts that are coming into your thought process that don't feel organic, you want to shut it down. Maintain your sovereignty. Say that they're violating your sovereignty, and there is a higher a being, higher knowing, our higher selves and others that are here to help protect us during this time if we ask for that assistance. Because of this invasion, we're going to ask to shut it down throughout the planet to maintain our sovereignty, because it's a violation of our space. We never consented to anything that's being thrust upon us. And just because someone's in rulership doesn't mean that they have the right to override the free will of humanity. No being throughout the galaxy, the universe has a right to override the free will of the human experience. And the humans, this is our domain on the planet, and anything else is invasive. So we do have a right to stand up for it. We just have to use our voice and have our own power. And if something is out of control, I welcome people to come and do a private session. I can assist. We can work on if you feel that something is really integrated, or you're having like extraordinary, really odd dreams or whatever, and you want to stop it. I have had people complain about like really bizarre sex dreams where they're kind of having sex with something that they don't want to have sex with, that kind of like weird stuff too. So yeah, I do have the tools on my YouTube channel, and I talk about them all the time. And but yeah, if some people just goes overboard, so that it's more than they can manage, in that well contact for private session.
What do you think? Okay, so let's enter into the death conversation, and see how does that connect into all of this. As I see it, it's the circling of the line, right? It's like birth and death are the same thing. And uh how do you see, first of all, what is death in your perception of it, and how does it play into everything that we're experiencing, from dreams to waking reality to dealing with this invasion of this invasion that's going on, that we've been talking about in this conversation?
Um, Death and life, there's really not much difference other than the departure of the body. So if your reality here is reflective of what happens in the afterlife, if you are refusing to look at things, or refusing to see the truth of what you know and what you experience, then you're going to feel lost in the afterlife. And so it's really good to open up your eyes. And you don't have to agree with everybody. You don't have to agree with me. And just find your own truth. Find something that's meaningful to you, that has purpose. You're supposed to be here in the moment now, experiencing life, and being having the experience of love and caring about something. So a lot of people are angry, and I tell people there are many reasons for us to be angry right now, because of like feeling your space is being invaded, and things don't seem to be just in a lot of different ways. But finding ways to release that stress, release that emotion, and understand that it's part of the journey to go into the afterlife, and also part of the journey to return back again. Some people don't want to return back again. If you understand, even in these challenging times, that there is something valuable. There are people like we're talking right now. I'm enjoying this very much. And those that are listening, I appreciate being here. So it's being in this moment, in the little moments of time that you're experiencing, that you can enjoy and embrace something that you really appreciate and experience. You take that with you. The soul is immortal. So everyone says we want immortality. Well, our soul is transcendent, it's immortal. And so it's a step into the afterlife. And religions are man-made. If you don't have a heart connection to something, then it's going to reflect in the afterlife. Find what you love, find your connection, find the deeper connection within yourself. Spend a little time meditating. And when you get to a point where you understand that is just the next step, and it is there's no fear in the afterlife. The afterlife is another experience.
I agree. It constantly. We don't die. We are immortal, and this is at the heart of so much for. I mean, we do see this in the mystery schools and in religions, that it is there. And for me, it's literally how I view my world in general. And so the short things, the short term things seem so small in the end when you're looking at it like that. And that this this particular ride we're on is it's just that it's a ride. For people that are, how do I put this? So how do you come in contact with the idea of manipulated DNA? So for people that are waking into the possibility that they are more than Homo sapiens sapien, right? With the so-called junk DNA, how does that all play out? And how can you parse? You always hear everyone want to say they're Pleiadian. It seems to be the number one thing. And I think it's because they seem the most human-like in a way. I'm not sure, but I do notice it does seem to be the, the one most people claim. How do you know what you may be? And it seems to me at this point, we are the ETs somehow.
Yeah, I think that we have had, because of our connection, and there's so much ET activity on the planet, as opposed to maybe, I mean, I don't know how many years it's going on, probably from the beginning. They've been like, you know, some of them are posing as God, so forth. But as long as they've been around, they're interacting with humans and creating various levels of hybridization. So you do see a varying of different cultures, different people, and occasions, different ability. Uh, gonna say,
I was waiting for you to finish.
yeah, like in Russia, you see these gifted kids.
Mhm.
That's not an accident.
It's been my understanding that this hybridization process is done in an etheric state, or in a different layer of reality, at an energetic level. You know what I mean? And that manipulation of the DNA at that level, because the DNA, from what I've researched, has an energy body essentially, and that's what's manipulated by these hybridizers, for lack of a better term. Will they'll merge pieces of quote unquote alien DNA into human DNA in that energetic body, and that's what filters down and presents the physical form.
And a lot of people get, they see little like shots, marks and
Mm-hmm.
stuff, enhance the secret super soldiers space program. You see that there's the little things like that happening from my labs, whatever, and we don't know what's in those injections.
True, and those could even be self-induced, self-created. If you have the experience in your mind, you can manifest changes to your physical form.
Sure.
People can.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's all that. And that was more of a question about the energetic DNA thing.
Yeah, we're actually, we don't know exactly what's going in our food either, too. And
No,
these
it's all nanobots.
enhanced, athletes are using stuff, make them more enhanced. And
There's a shitload of SSRIs in the drinking water. It's by default now, from everybody pissing it out. They can't, no water refineries really filter for that stuff unless you buy bottled water. So yeah, it's awesome.
yeah, so there's a lot. Um, I know that some people are talking about hybrid children and stuff like that, but they don't consider that they're actually getting altered in a certain way. And you can see that I've seen some people have had alteration changes. See that on occasion, depending on where they're going astrally, or if they're taking on a ship or whatever, and then suddenly they seem a little different. Well, that's aside from clones, like that too.
Clones. That's a whole other subject.
I know. We don't. There's so much to talk about, when you get on these subjects, and
Oh, I know. Sorry, Nish.
Well, no. I was listening. I'm fascinated by all this.
Follow up with the afterlife you were talking about, actually.
Oh, go on, Jerry.
So, I don't remember who I heard talking about this, but they were explaining that essentially the first bit of the afterlife is in part of astral space, and part of that space, right? That dimension, whatever that is. And it's almost like a waypoint before you go to your next destination or whatever. And in that space is where you're likely to be tricked by entities. The false light syndrome, they'll appear as your loved ones who are dead. Oh, come with me, and plus all the media programming, going to the light. It's a big deal. So is there any truth to that? Is that true in your experience? Similar,
I believe that there are some that are doing that, but I don't like when I'm working with souls that have passed over. I feel like they're going in the right hands. So I'm not 100% sold on that theory. I know it probably will surprise. However, I do have a memory of something that bothered me a lot. That was I had a memory of dying and then going into the space where I was literally on a spacecraft and in like a holding cell, some sort filled with water or some kind of liquid, maybe the plasma, I don't know. And I could feel it. This is the whole thing. It was very lucid, and they had this probe stuck into my brain, the top of my head. I could feel it. It hurt, and I had an awareness, and I could look around in the space. It was all like metallic, very shiny metallic on the inside, like a brushed metal or something. And then there was this like red button there. It was like a really weird red button, and all of a sudden I hear him in this like clear, like kind of it looks like this something that you see in an aquarium, and I'm laying there, and this being came over to me, and he had like this heart-shaped head, like an ET, large head, but like the two lobes separated like that, right? And he's looking at me, and then the other one stands next to me, and this one's the problem. He's going to remember, like that.
Oh, wow.
That's actually a scene from People of Earth, the TV show.
I said this years ago before that show even appeared.
No, I'm just saying that is an exact scene. The dude even has, show you a picture of it.
Yeah, I know.
I've never watched that show.
Oh, it's
They
great.
make them look like they're nice guys. Let me tell you
No, they don't.
I guess they're called the Arbonne. Those ones. It's like their brain is separated in a way, right? On the top. So the one says that to me, looking at me, says it to the other one next to him. They're both in lab coats. And then, yeah, only their eyes are smaller.
There's only one of those guys.
Yeah,
Anyway.
It was more like that guy right there, the green face with the head on top like that.
Like Morbo. That's like Morbo from Futurama. I will destroy you.
So it was very intimidating. And he says, this one's going to remember. And then the other one, all of a sudden I heard this scream like you wouldn't believe. And they both left. I reached up and pulled that thing out of my head. And then it was like I hit something when I did that. And then the bottom of the tank opened up and I dropped out of it. A bunch of others dropped out of it. We landed in the ocean. It was like some kind of like a tripod or a four-legged kind of spacecraft. And it started to it was invisible, and then it started to appear like somehow the electronics or something went off when I did that. And a bunch of us were swimming to shore, and there were these like simian looking creatures. that were called elders or something like that. It was really weird. They were welcoming us. And I'm like, what in the world was this? It was like in some strange reality, but it was like in the afterlife. I knew it was part of an afterlife experience. Like that they had brought us, they had abducted us while we were in the afterlife. All right, can I add what? And I'm going to put another bit of crazy on this.
No, that's enough. Crazy. No, I'm kidding.
No, keep
Please
going.
Don't stop.
Keep going.
All right, we're going to add a little more crazy to this. Guess who was on that in that spacecraft was Hitler, Stalin, Napoleon, all like those crazy leaders. And what I realized afterwards is that they were torturing. I could hear them screaming in the background. They were torturing them in the afterlife. So when they came in, they were completely desensitized before they incarnated. So they were manufacturing these insane
Villain psychopaths.
Yeah.
And so that was done with the intent of, that was done like with this almost idea of predestiny for them, right?
Yeah,
Like-
like they were planning on, pretty much controlling the planet in a way through trauma.
What are your thoughts? And this is kind of, what are your thoughts on this is funny to all of us that are already, disclosures already happened and all that, but this in the public eye and in the public domain, with all of this now rolling out of extraterrestrial disclosure that's now hitting all the major papers,
Fake news.
Jerry, that's hitting everywhere, and now it's a mainstream thing where it's, you've got newscasters talking about it, and Washington Post and New York Times. What's going on with all that, Jessica?
The powers, like I said, the powers that were really monitoring and controlling us, that were projecting or to have this voice of God, they're losing power. You want to call them Illuminati, you want to call them, some of them are losing their grip. And like I said, they're projecting this suicidal feeling, because I think they're feeling like they want to get out because of the pressure we're sending back to them. And so
apparently they can't too. They can't leave.
Nope, not the way they want to. No, I mean, and they dug a hole. They're gonna have to figure it out, because I mean, and after they thought that they were gonna just like kind of have this is this their fun playground here, and it's not working out well for them, a lot of them. And so anyhow, it's by them losing power, it allows the truth to reveal more, because they also create these overlays and illusions. So when people start talking about the truth, they say, oh, you're an idiot, or something's wrong with you, or he's talking about there's no proof in that. And even when it's right in front of their face, they can't see it. Those illusions are stripping away little by little. And so people are starting to see more and more and more people are awakened to it.
Do you think any of these result in changes to history?
Yeah, we have more than one timeline.
Yeah.
And Andronicus told me that we should be holding on to the highest intention for humanity. We don't have to accept the timeline that they created for us. We can create our own timeline, and we should hold on to it and not accept anything less. And that's, the benefit for all of us, not just for, a small handful of people that are elite or anything like that, that think they're going to have a nice little escape plan and go off to Mars and have their own fun little place. Elon Musk talks about, sorry, Elon, but the world doesn't evolve around you. I know no one ever told you that yet, but
I
there's
think
more of us here, and the Georgia Guidestones also has their little plan of who they decide should stay and who should go, and all of them have their own little plans, but there's a divine knowing, and all of us have this purpose and beautiful something to add to the planet. So we all have value. There's no one greater than the other. So who's to say? We decide whether we leave or not. And so yeah, the future is ours. We want it.
cool. Sorry, I was kind of poking around to see if you thought maybe that um, these controllers losing their grip could result in a Mandela effects. People are saying, or changes to the narrative, just like overnight, things like that.
Well, what happened was is someone did, the monarch did get into our timelines, and of course, CERN, they're messing around with the potentials of what's supposed to happen, and they're doing that where the timelines were all messed up. And so that's why it was hard for people to predict anything. Because if you know that something's supposed to happen on this timeline and it's visible, but they kind of threw a wrench in all of it, and so then it became extremely unpredictable, and also the Mandela effect and other anomalies happen because of that. So like there's an adjustment to try to resolve that, and that's information from ACIO about the time.
What? So what, they're actively trying to correct that now, or do they just throw their hands up and say, it's fucked, we're done?
As Peter would say, this is crazy. This is next level shit. It is. It's scary as hell. Because think about it. Where there is somewhat predictability, and then suddenly, things have a certain level of chaos, which is kind of, disturbing, because it's hard to figure what could happen to you there to make sure it doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like a traffic thing or anything like that, a natural occurrence, explosion, something. You kind of want to have a handle on that kind of stuff. And so just because Monarch and some of the corporations have no regard, they think everything's a joke. They think they have their own.
Fairchild, and like Rand and Fairchild, and yeah.
Yeah, the Monarch solutions, and there's a lot of disclosure on some of the stuff in Mobius. Also, this is that steampunk group came up from the 1800s, found time travel, and have been just having a lot of fun creating stuff, and not to our advantage, but to theirs. They love being celebrities, and also they're the ones that introduced futuristic androids into our reality, which only confuses things even more.
Futuristic androids, did you say?
Androids, yeah.
Like the ones on CNN?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, well, they obey, don't they? Yeah, I talked to a bill collector today, and sounded very much like I tried everything or whatever, and it wasn't a lot of money. It was,
Should never answer collector calls.
Yeah.
Seriously, if they can't contact you, they can't hurt you. Once you talk to them, it's game over.
Yeah, I mean, it was something I really wanted to take care of, but it was really interesting. The person answering the phone was, semi-human. Wasn't normal.
It was a demon. It was a everything's demon.
Everything's a demon.
So, Jessica, this is kind of like the heart of what I was asking earlier. In your channeling with some of the races, are there plans to reveal themselves to the public anytime soon, to just be out in the open for the masses to see and encounter, other than interdimensionally or through, like tangible, like this, where we get to see and interact in what this apparently is as tangible.
I have wondered if Andronicus was going to show up. I mean, there's been times when because he has been on the planet, and he's been here at all different time periods. He wrote the Voynich manuscript, the one that people were really curious about, and
I have that right here.
so
And what does it all mean?
well, there's botany, and I mean he's a botanist, right? So he takes plants from different planets, and then they kind of replant and do all sorts of stuff. So he does a lot of different things. And I laughed about it because I said, look at all the naked women in there. I mean, that's totally him.
Sounds more like Metis, though.
But, yeah, I mean, but he's been here physically. You wouldn't know. Would he show up like a messiah? Something like, no, definitely.
Well, not necessarily in a messianic way, but just say like the proverbial image of craft that lands in a very public available space, so that nobody will question anymore the validity of all of this. That for once and for all, one of these races reveals itself as real and tangible.
And do they even have crafts? I mean,
well, but I'm just using it as an example, like the proverbial thing when one lands on the White House lawn. Like, is there going to be one of those kinds of events where one, even the nefarious ones, or the ones that are less favorable towards our free will here, apparent free will, is there going to be any revealing? That's what I'm wondering. Have you had any information on that?
Well, I mean, I think that's the government definitely wants to hide that. I think we have to. As far as my discussion with Andronicus, I haven't heard anything about him doing that anytime soon. I think a lot of the stuff has to change on the planet in order for even like the Andromedans to come in and spend time with humans and to teach them things, or that kind of understanding. I mean, anything like that can happen. It has happened in our history. So, but for whatever reason, there's this level of let's make believe it's not here. I mean, we do have spacecraft that are landing in different places. The stuff that happened in Area 51 isn't an isolated situation, but you'd think so by the way that he addresses it, or the historians address it.
Yeah, you just reminded me. I heard, I don't remember yesterday or the day before, someone was talking about Area 51 is actually a multi-dimensional facility. That there are other dimensions that can be accessed from inside that take you to different technological areas.
I think I just heard that too, Jared.
Yeah.
And I can't really remember if I get my information from my dreams or stuff I watch on YouTube.
No, I think that must have been something we both heard. Like,
probably.
Was talking about. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe.
Well, I mean, for most of us out here, we see the stuff I have personally encountered. Like for those of us experiencing it and seeing, we know this, but it's again, I'm talking about like the average person who may or may not be, I guess, what people are calling NPCs now. I don't know. They want this watershed moment of, Mars attacks, or something like that. Because
but that would be devastating.
It would be devastating, and as Jessica was just saying, as we know that there's sightings every day, there's credible stuff all over all the time, and that's not digging into the past archives. That's just stuff happening now.
They won't record it. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm wondering. When is the time point in which, it's just we're in Futurama world?
When the controllers, I'm not just talking about our government, is these beings, is they want us to stay asleep. As soon as we start seeing crafts, things like that, then we awake. And and we start to remember who we are, and it's all a part of the plan to keep us asleep and keep us in the slave system of the elite, and then those that are barely getting by. So it all works hand in hand. So if you have something like that happen, then it becomes more liberating.
Yeah.
We have to continue to express our desire to be liberated from these beings that are holding us in a very strange space.
A-
Free of it.
So with that said, how tangible is reality? I mean, are we dreaming now and we're just having a high occurrence of lucidity? Are we sleeping somewhere? Is our is our real essence in stasis somewhere?
And stasis pods on the moon.
Yes, exactly. I mean, is it possible that we're dreaming right now?
What's reality?
I know this is what I'm saying. It's the big question.
Who's to say what is real and what isn't?
Yeah.
Right? When here I can be sitting in my living room, and then I could be visiting on some planet in my dream space, or I could be in another country walking down the street,
Yeah.
or I mean, what is real? Not all of it's real, but there's a different. We need to categorize it. The problem is science is trying to restrict our belief system and tell us that this duality teaching of Zoroastrianism, that everything's good or bad, or the teachings of some of the religions, how we need to know our place in regard to how we call ourselves and name ourselves, and our practices and beliefs and all this other stuff. Instead, we're ignoring some of these basic things of our understanding of reality, and it's prohibiting us, and they're defining things for us. And then if we talk outside of their definition, then we're crazy. But what is a scientist? What is an entrepreneur? Someone that thinks outside of the box. But if we do that regarding spirituality, then it's fanaticism. But that's archaic, isn't it? So, we need to embrace our thinking and allow ourselves to take on the perspective and view that we are in a multiverse and multi-experience reality. And so that means that many, many possibilities are happening, like time slip and Mandela effect, and all these different, surreal things. And you can actually, experience and be in different places at different times. And it does not mean that you are insane. It doesn't mean that. So we need to take back the definition. We need to take back, have ownership of our belief system. Everyone else is doing it. People in the spiritual realm are reluctant to speak out. So this is a time, if everyone else has a voice, let's get our voice then in this area.
Yeah, absolutely agree. And it's really the whole axis on which the idea and also the the dimension of dreaming comes in, since that's kind of the context here, is that we all have access to dreaming. So in that alone, by getting the internal, as I call it, the internal martial arts going, the training through lucidity, and if that has to take place in the dream realm, and then filter out into what we consider our waking realm, so be it. In the end, it's how we hold agency and sovereignty within ourselves that creates this experience, and then it overlaps and overlaps, and we have different timelines, and this awakening just continues to unfold.
Well, look at people that are opening up their third eye and using their intuition. And this is another thing that they told us to stop doing, is using our inner knowing, our intuition. And
Yes.
years ago, I mean, all animals use it. They know when there's a serious weather pattern happening. They know when they're in danger. And so we're saying, well, they're animals. They're doing what animals do. No, we could do that as well. We also had levels of telepathy that were natural, and we're pushed out of that. And there's certain people that start to pick it up a little bit, like, wow, I can't believe I can do that. I'm of the theory and the belief system that all of us could do that. I believe that we were all equipped to do a lot of things, and that was dumbed down.
I found personally that that stuff exists, but you tune it out.
Right. It's deliberate because we're told to. We're told to at a young age.
But also, it seems like it comes from a different place. It's almost like a first guess on things. For me, I mean, like if someone asked me a question, they wanted me to whatever, I would take a get, like that very first thing that pops in your head is usually the right answer, But people just tune that out because, oh, it can't be that.
Have you ever walked into a space and there was something that said, don't go in there, that's probably not a good idea, and you ignore it, and then something happens?
No.
You've never done that?
No, I never go in.
Okay. So you listen to yourself. That's the type of thing. I mean, some people say, I don't know why I usually took the highway, but for some reason I took this other road, and then I found out that there was a big accident. I was like, it's that kind of thing. We discouraged from that. What is so important about us not knowing how to do that anymore? Then we have to, because it's like they're gearing us up to be told what to do on every level.
Well, it's pretty much here.
Yeah. I encourage people to go back in. And the other thing is, too, they discourage meditation. Meditation opens up the third eye. And so it's called, it's anti-religion in some way to some people. Or
that's science in general.
Or it's evil, or, I've heard the weirdest things about meditation. And meditation is very simple. We do it pretty much every day. We just sit there and relax, and you just allow your mind to, relax and not think anything, and just get rid of stress.
There are factions, groups, whatever you want to call them, that believe the chakra system are alien implants, and anything associated with those would be in league with those aliens, or feeding them energy, or whatever, however you want to see their control mechanism.
But if you don't meditate, what are you going to get? You're going to just take in all the information.
No, I was just tossing it out there.
Yeah, I don't agree with that. I think chakras are innate.
I totally agree with you, and I say this all the time, that we naturally meditate, and then of course there's all these guidelines, like you got to sit this way or that way. We naturally do it. We naturally know how to do it. It's like dreaming. And we just allow ourselves to fall into it and let the process take over, we can really get a lot out of it. And that alone is that we naturally go into the quietude and into that inner space. There's no need to like the incense and the candle and the position and the breathing. We do it naturally. All that stuff is great, but we do it naturally, and so we allow ourselves to do it. And unfortunately, at least in this timeline, a lot of kids were called lazy or daydreamers, and that's meditating. They were in this meditative state, and so what did they get? They get pill pop. They get pushed aside, the ones that are really, really in the flow of that.
The threats to society,
Yes.
because they don't walk the line. They don't stay within the box. They don't take orders really well.
Yep. I know, I'm one of them.
They don't fit the control system.
Yep. I call it the rebel gene.
They call me a contrarian.
Oh,
Well,
Mary. Do we have any questions from people?
I do, but I don't want to ask that one. So come up with some better questions, audience. I have questions. So,
Well, yeah, I mean, I have more too, so it's...
oh,
Go,
I could talk
Jerry.
to Jessica all night.
I know.
But we won't.
This is so great.
So in one of your Andronicus chronicles, you channeled some metallic AI beings that I think you equated them to the Archons, or they called themselves the Archons?
was it Tectotron?
Yes, Tectotron.
Yeah.
Yeah, could you talk a
Really
little?
weird. I had an argument with him.
Yes.
I didn't know where he was coming from, and I'll be honest with you. I thought it was kind of like Metatron, and people think Metatron. Oh no, he's a divine being. I'm thinking that he's part of this. It's a reality that already exists, whether it's in our future or somewhere where it is all machinery. It's all some kind of robot.
Could just be an alternate dimension that we've created as well.
I feel like this is where some people are getting their cyborg, secret space cyborg connection.
Mm.
And I've even talked to some people. Actually, it was a funny story. A friend of James Rink, and I said, I said his name. I channeled his name, and was talking about Tectotron knew him. I drew a picture of him, and then I met him. Well, I'll say it, and I'm sure he's not going to be angry at me, but it was Adrian.
Mm.
And Adrian is a friend of James Rink, and I didn't know him at that time. And here I was doing this whole Tectotron thing, and his name was calling him Adrian. And I drew the picture of him. It looked like Adrian, and then I met Adrian, and we were talking about it. He was like, "Well, who is he? Who does he think he is?" I said, "I don't know." I said, "This is exactly what's going on." So in some reality, he was having this interface with Tectotron. He was rebelling. He kept rebelling and wanting to get out. So I think that in some way, in a I said the divine order of things, I was destined to meet Adrian, and then Adrian needed to have a realization of his being involved in that space, and he liberated himself from that space. And it does happen that way. Sometimes that things come forward, and then later on, you understand the wisdom of it.
It plays out over time. It's like the long game.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I've heard people call it like DNA activation when that happens, when something, some kind of synchronicity leads to you going to meeting up with someone, and then energetically and awareness-wise, they're like, whoa. They're woke at that point, not
Yeah,
like woke.
yeah, that was. I can't believe that was you, and it was kind of a bizarre situation. It's a hell of a way to meet someone. They're like, "How in the world did you pick that up?" I don't know. I don't know. It just happened.
Okay, I'm not going to ask that, Darcy. Darcy wants to know, what does Andronicus want? Or are you guys just friends?
Andronicus came in. I believe he connected to us at a time where their planet was being overtaken by the reptilians, and he was warning us. He was saying, whatever we experience, you don't have to go through. I'm here to tell you right now, don't allow it to get so far that it becomes this problem. And he said how they were experts at mind control. He said that they gradually took over, and then it turned it into a whole dystopian society where they actually had like the numbers printed on them, and the whole bit. And he says, in those futuristic movies that you see, some of them are us, and we've projected our reality you guys can see it, but not so you feel that you have to experience it. I want you to all know. So that was the initial reason he contacted us.
That we projected it to them?
They're already experiencing it. They were like, we need help. They were sending it out into the universe, and we were literally picking it up, and people were writing about it or putting it into movies. It's like the Andromedan strain. You remember hearing about the strain? Yeah.
I read the book. So that's interesting then, because that would imply, well, it doesn't imply it. It does imply, well, what am I trying to say? So a lot of people will say they are doing this. There's mind control programs up from the government or, or the UN or whatever, some group of people, when in fact there could just be some other kind of energetic something that we're getting from somewhere else that we're not, it's not from the government.
Sometimes, yeah. You're right.
Yeah. So it's as so many things are, you discover it's both and. It's whatever you think it probably is, plus a bunch of other shit.
Yeah, I mean, I'm putting together the transmissions that they're going to be out in a book.
Oh, cool.
Because I know people want to read through and see everything that was said, but that is my first interaction with him, first few interactions with him. That's why I believe we connected with him. And I say we because it wasn't just about me. But then, through the storyline, we talk about how he and I knew each other. And it sort of evolves as he begins to remember. He tells me what happened.
You were Hera or something.
No, I was not Hera. I was Semiramis, so they call me Sumer.
Right, Sumer, that was it.
Yeah, and Ishtar, and they called me Sumer. I came in. I was abducted by the reptilians and brought to this other planet, and then they had to get rid of me because I was out of timeline. Brought me back, and I looked like, they didn't know if I was a god or who I was. I came through a portal. That's what he said to me. So it was kind of a really weird thing. So I went in. No, I got abducted as Semiramis, and then came back as they called me Ishtar.
Upgrade. You got upgraded.
I think I got killed in that lifetime too.
So here's a good question. So do you have any experiences or any of these entities that live before like the Sumerian time? It seems like our history kind of stops at that point, going back. And it seems like a lot of people who are in touch with information that goes back that far stops there too.
Well, there was a whole revolution of the pre-Adamic race that exists.
And do you talk to any folks over there?
I have a memory of being over there. Yeah. Yeah, it is kind of a weird one.
They were what, big people, right?
Yeah, these were. I mean, if they were big, then I was big too, so I didn't see a difference. But there was the one that they call Cain was the leader of the group that I was with, and I remember looking at him thinking that his head was dirty. He was bald and he had these like marks, but I think it was that lightning bolt thing that hit him. He had literally it looked like dirt. It looked like a grayish something like this.
Oh, scarred tissue. Yeah, I've seen that.
Something like that, and
or it could be Harry Potter.
It was a weird that they were in a whole different mindset. They're under different rules. They actually had different DNA, I think.
Probably. That there's I forget who was talking about this, and it's not credible information, but says that their civilization ended up down in Antarctica, and that's what's getting dug up right now.
Yeah, I mean the Earth was in a different place, because that was a pre-flood.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so whatever they did the flood was altered the Earth in some way to create that.
I think it's the Earth that's doing it. The Earth generates the resets when when things aren't going too well.
Yeah, but I think that there are beings that know how to, everything is a vehicle. The Earth is a vehicle. I mean, it has density.
More or less, yeah.
But it is a vehicle. All planets are a vehicle. They're guided and moved.
Right. If we all, I've heard people say that if we all meditate like the planet together, we could move it anywhere.
Hmm. Yeah, we could, shift it to, I don't know. I mean, any way you shift it at this point is going to create an imbalance or
I just want to get that 6.6 degree, 6.6 degree tilt out of here.
what would that do?
It would make a large swath of wasteland today like paradise.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So Darcy has another question here. I'm trying to decipher it. Okay, so the information, I think what she's asking is Andronicus trying to help humanity or just your family line, just your ancestry?
Oh, for humanity, 100%. Yeah, not any particular line.
Right. I don't have any more questions. Nish? And she's
No. I just had to reach to the button. No, I'm good. This has been extremely fulfilling.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you. I'm sorry. I'm trying to read chat, and
I was like, where'd Jerry go?
The preview.
Are we going to start getting a transmission?
No, the preview's doing a thing like it's not getting the stream, and I had to check the stream. It's all good. It's all good. Anyway, so Jessica, would you like to plug anything or your work or what? Where can people find you? We have all your links in the show notes and in the video description. But if you had anything else to talk about, like how awesome your readings are, things like that.
Oh, well, I welcome everyone to come into the YouTube channel. We have different types of information that comes in. And we do that a couple of times per week, usually. On and over and above the Andronicus transmissions, also, we've been covering the yellow vest and, kind of a liberation of people speaking out, and it seems to be getting contagious in other nations as well. So, see that
it's fantastic.
France is motivating the rest of the world to.
Yeah, they burned down their own cathedral.
Somebody did for sure. Yeah, and my website is www.readingsbyariel.com. And did I tell you guys are awesome? You've been listening since Little Spirit Radio times, right?
I have been, yes.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, and I wish we had met sooner. And you have to come on my shows.
Absolutely.
I've loved this. I thank you so much, Jessica, and of course the time. I think the timing lined up just right. The scheduling thing was crazy with me not being able to make that date, but I'm so grateful. Thank you for spending this time with us.
Thank you very much for inviting me.
Now I'm getting questioned. Come on.
It's always that. Anything good, Jer?
Can't find it, Mr. A. I'm so sorry. I don't know which one was a question, dude. I'm so sorry. Next time. We'll get you next time. So anyway, Jessica, thank you so much for coming on the show. It's been a pleasure speaking with you. Thank you, Nish. Thank you, audience. And be sure to tune in next week. We have somebody cool. I think it's Tim Swartz next week, right?
I don't know. We always have somebody.
I know you don't know. Tim Swartz is the co-host of Exploring the Bizarre on KCOR Radio with Timothy Beckley Green. It's an interesting UFO encrypted. Oh, that was my question. What's up with Bigfoot? What do you think of Bigfoot?
He's an interdimensional being.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What about other
I've communicated with them before.
Yeah, it's a group of them?
Yeah, definitely.
Of different races, too.
Yeah, as if you get into the woods, you can tune into them if you're telepathic.
Oh, yes, you can.
They're not hostile or anything.
My experience was so scary, Jessica. I don't ever want to have it again. It was like, I'm going to be. And so.
You must have met a hungry one.
It was two of them. And it was completely physical. and yet, the voice was in the head too. And yeah, I mean, unlike anything I've
Get into your head.
experienced.
Yeah, they'll definitely get in your head. I mean, I have talked to people who would go off on these little journeys with them and stuff. But that's, whatever you're connected to.
I just
Maybe
thought
they
of one
didn't
more
like
thing.
my dogs. I
Yeah.
don't know.
Your wolf. I just thought of one more thing too. With cryptids that show up like Mothman or specifically Slenderman, which is a newer cryptid that's based on a fictitious story. Are those things that people are manifesting, or do you think maybe these quote-unquote controllers are doing it? Because they're getting the signals, they're hearing the Slenderman energy, right? Maybe they produce those effects?
Yeah, well, all right, I'll tell you my experience. Mothman, in my opinion, is one of he's from Sirius. It's like an Egyptian type of being. And Slender Man is identified as one of the species to the ACIO, so they are natural. And they target children. They're very, very dangerous. They're not someone to like play with or anything like that.
I would think none of them are fun to play with, but I get it. I was looking at too short of a timeline, right? They've been here before. That's where the idea came from, and then they show up.
Yeah. No, I mean, if I think that we can like fabricate. And when first time I heard Slender Man, I thought it was a hoax. I didn't believe that it was true. Those kids were highly affected by it. And then Peter from the ACIO did say that they have been watching the Slender Man because they're really targeting the children, and they're creating black-eyed children. Which is another weird thing.
Have you heard about black-eyed grandmas?
No, but I believe I would not want to meet one, I'm sure.
I'm sure you wouldn't either.
Oh, Jerry.
That's kind of half joking. But... All right, I'll shut up now, so I'll just keep babbling. Thank you, everyone. Thank you again, Jessica. Thank you, Nish. Thank you, listeners, and have a good one.